I think Arsenal assumed control of most of the game, even though they didn't look like they were going to go on and win it. Some of the play was pretty good. Newcastle were difficult to break down. Obviously, they were very physical. I'm glad, and I'm glad Eze played. I mean, he wasn't brilliant, but he was unlucky not to get on the score sheet because Pope made 2 or 3 world-class saves. The only thing is, I got frustrated with Arsenal watching this game, and obviously Arteta's been in news this week with some of his sort of crazy comments about the Man City game from last weekend. Did he play Eze because he wanted to play Eze, or did he play him because he's buckled to a bit of the pressure? Who knows? But unfortunately, and this might be a good thing for them, and we were talking about this, they're almost kind of the team's moulding into this annoying Mikel Arteta sort of mirror image, isn't it?
Almost.
They have a brilliant squad of players. They're definitely going to be in this title race. It's going to go all the way down. There's no reason they can't win it. They have a lot of likeable players who are super talented, but they're a very unlikable team. One of the most unlikable teams in the Premier League, because they moan and they groan about everything and they think everything's against them. From the manager to the players, Trossard, Gabriel, you go through the list. They spend half the time moaning and groaning. And I think if they can somewhat, maybe some will say that's a sign of a good side. Maybe that mentality will get them to the end. But I think sometimes that can take you off your game. And I think at various parts of this game, they were off of the job of trying to win the game and more on the job of the referee and the world's against us. And I didn't like that, to be honest with you. I liked the way they finished, but I didn't like the fact that they thought every single challenge should have been a free kick or a penalty or something for Arsenal. Even the goal that they were moaning about Gabriel being pushed, he was not.
Was that evident being there, Mark?
It was, yeah. And what was evident to me was that they kind of met the match in Newcastle, because Newcastle can do that as well. Newcastle, it was like watching Stoke versus Wimbledon at times, because Newcastle were really kind of getting stuck in. They were moaning. Dan Burn got booked for a classic kind of tactical foul, and they're pretty good at it as well, Newcastle. We had Jason Tindall on the touchline having a go at Gabriel Heinze in the dugout as well. It really was kind of two sides that know how to, stretch the rules as far as possible. But Craig's right, Arsenal do like a moan, but that's been their DNA since Arsene Wenger took charge. That Arsene Wenger team was a great team, but had lots of moaners in it. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think over the years, Arsenal, certainly in the latter years of Wenger and under Unai Emery, were a bit soft and they were a bit kind of timid. They're not timid now.
If you think back to, and I think they've tidied this up, I haven't got the stats, obviously, but they had some discipline problems a couple of years ago, and particularly the centre-backs. Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
He's one that I think you just, and I agree with Oggy, I don't think it's a red card, but it's not far off it. You can't raise your hand to another player, particularly off the ball, particularly to the head. That's just utter stupidity. You're just asking, particularly with VAR, you're just asking for somebody to go and have a look at something that most people won't even be batting an eyelid at. You should not be getting involved in scenarios like that.
My thing with that incident is, I'm in agreement. I didn't think it was a card, certainly not a red card. When I saw it, I didn't think so. But had that been the other way around, had that been Voltemada on Gabriel, that's all you would have heard from Arteta for the last 24 hours. Without question, that would have dominated every post-game press conference about how unfairly we are treated, because apparently they've been treated unfairly again. Siege mentality only gets you so far. If you're a big football club, it gets really tiring really quickly. And Arsenal have had this and kind of amplified the siege mentality about them and their ambitions for the last 3 or 4 years. And at some point, I think it starts to tell on your identity. When you take the field and you feel everybody and their mother is against you.
How did this get so negative against Arsenal? They just went to Newcastle, they won.
Your Arsenal mates will be on to you again.
Oh, they've already been.
They went to Newcastle, they won, they're very much in the title race. Can you imagine the conversation if they hadn't got that late win?
That being said,
and they deserve to win.
I felt, at no point I thought Arsenal would not score. I looking at this game, even with Newcastle in front, I thought, I was sitting there and thinking it's only a matter of time. And I couldn't believe it got to the 80th minute for Arsenal to score. I just thought Arsenal were that dominant. And as defensive as Newcastle tried to be, as much as they tried to stifle them, I never thought for a minute that Arsenal would go 90, or in this case, 98 minutes without at least getting one.
I was not expecting Arsenal to be favourites now.
Why?
Because Liverpool are favourites, surely still.
No.
No?
No. Look, at the moment, the way they're playing,
But they've just...
all they've done is eke out results.
Right, really?
Until the weekend. Yes. Yeah. I mean, you could argue even the game, the Champions League game, Atletico Madrid were probably unlucky at Anfield. So all they've been doing is eking out results. I mean, Arsenal haven't had as good of results, but they've controlled a lot of the games. Liverpool have not. It's been a bit harem-scarum. Hasn't been anywhere near the organised Liverpool like last year, where they were very solid defensively for the most part, good shape in midfield, and fast and dynamic on the counter-attack. Not really had much of that, if we're being honest. The whole defending, whether you're a goalkeeper or a defender, centre-half or a full-back, defending is as big an art skill as scoring a goal or having an assist. And part of that skill set is timing a challenge and, lo and behold, getting something on the ball, which is what every defender and goalkeeper sets out to do, whether it's with their hands, getting a fingertip to it. I mean, if he comes out and gets a fingertip to that, right, and then Gyökeres balls over the top of them, how can that be a foul?
Nobody argues that. Nobody argues
the whole point is this: the laws say, well, you're not just playing the ball. I think that's more when you're playing when you play the ball, but you come in a dangerous, reckless manner. Then it's not just about playing the ball, but in terms of winning it there. And the direction of the ball changing, I don't see how that can...
Here's my take on this. Just getting a touch on the ball does not necessarily mean that it's not a penalty. But if you divert the ball away enough that the striker, in this case Gyökeres, isn't running onto that loose ball and got an easy tap in, then if you're denying him that, then yes, even though you get a touch, as it's a penalty. But as you look at that, certainly from the aerial shot, I think there's genuine debate there as to whether Gyökeres is getting onto it or not. And truthfully, as biased I may be, I don't think Gyökeres is getting onto that ball, which means Pope got more than enough of a touch to say that it was a good challenge, it wasn't dangerous, to Craig's point. He got the ball first before getting the man, and enough of a diversion to say, yeah, this is not penalty.
To your point earlier, if that had been, I mean this in all sincerity, had that been the other way around, right? And it had denied, and Newcastle had got a penalty for it or whatever. Mikel Arteta would already have had some sort of fast-baked press conference with a big screen behind him, where they would have magnified David Raya's touch.
This anti-Arsenal rhetoric is it's disgusting for a team that are favourites, Mark, to win the Premier League.
I agree with that, but I had them as favourites at the start of the season, and I think, I agree with the guys. Liverpool aren't that convincing. Yes, everyone looks at the results. They've won a lot of games late in the game, but I don't think Slot's particularly happy with his new signings. I think his two fullbacks he's not convinced by. He's substituted Kirkez. He's had a couple of nibbles at Kirkez and Frimpong. He's not happy with Wirtz. Every time Wirtz starts, he's taking him off. So, yes, they've spent all this money, but they're not as good a team as they were last season. And I think it's the players they've lost. They're missing Trent for his distribution down the right. I think they've got an issue at centre half. So for me, Arsenal have got the strongest squad. They've got depth in every position, maybe apart from having cover for Odegaard. And I think the only thing that Liverpool, for me, have got the advantage of is the manager. I think Arne Slot is a better coach, better manager, has been down the track before as a winner. But Arteta, he keeps knocking on the door, and I think he's very, very close to having a team that can win the title now.
There was a member of our squad who will remain nameless, our team, our crew.
Oh, of ESPN FC. I thought we were going back to 1973.
Who thinks that. Why are you always looking at that?
I've waited.
There's a member of a crew here who thinks Arne Slot got a bit lucky last year.
Okay.
With the Premier League and the other, obviously went out the Champions League, went out the FA Cup, all that sort of stuff.
Why does Stevie think that?
It's not Stevie, obviously.
Oh really?
It's not Stevie. and so that's going to be when I heard that, I'm not going to say who it was, throwing them under the bus.
It's not exactly a massive crew.
Well, no, it might not be somebody based here in the US.
Oh, well,
Ogden had a nervous laugh there.
Obviously not on the title odds.
That's to get Liverpool fans to hate Oggy as well, because it wasn't Oggy.
Everyone hates Oggy, no matter who they support. Manchester United, of course, nowhere near the title race. Another defeat for them leaves them in 14th in the table. Yeah, 6 games. I know. 6 games. Here we go.
Boy.
Right, let's take a look at Amorim's record. Of course, worse than it was last Monday. 9 wins. There you go.
See, when you're having this discussion with Oggy, I'm just going to sit like Ruben Amorim.
Oh yeah.
Just sit like this.
There we go.
Sit like this. Tell me when it's over. Tell me.
So it's time for Miserable Mark's Monday Manchester Update. Mark, what's the latest?
Listen, I can only work with the cards that I'm dealt with, so obviously I'm miserable every Monday because I'm not really got anything to play with. Look, the situation with Amorim is that he'll still be in charge at the weekend against Sunderland. United don't want to make a change, but I think there's a realisation that things have to improve rapidly. This is his 50th game at the weekend against Sunderland. I think if they don't win it, I'd be surprised if he gets 51 because...
Wow.
They can basically say he needs time, he's had a lot of issues that have been against him, etc, etc. But look, that win rate, 27% win rate. Prior to Amorim coming in, the worst record of a Man United manager in the Premier League was David Moyes, 50%. So that is how bad Amorim's record has been. And there's so many stats, that no back-to-back wins since he came in, average point per game. An average of 1 point per game is relegation form. The old rule that you had to have 40 points to be sure of staying up, that tracks onto 38 points. So that means Man United are in relegation battle. So, one thing that was put to me last week by somebody at United was that, yes, things aren't going great, but who do you bring in to replace you? I was being asked that question. It wasn't me asking the question. They were asking me, which was a bit worrying, I guess. But, the answer to that is...
Very worrying.
Good question. Well, exactly. So... what is the answer? Well, we know that Gareth Southgate's available. I don't think he's a solution because, first of all, the two big advocates for Gareth Southgate at Man United were Dan Ashworth and Dave Brailsford, both of whom have left. And obviously Southgate would not be a vote winner with the fans, I wouldn't have thought. People are mentioning Xavi, record at Barcelona, but Man United right now I think need an experienced Premier League manager who knows the league, who knows the players, just to get them out of the situation. I don't think that's Xavi. I just don't think he could go in and work with that squad. And the other obvious candidate is Oliver Glasner. Now, Glasner's situation is his contract expires at Palace at the end of the season. He'd be relatively inexpensive to get out of the club. He's older and wiser than Amorim. He's got a track record of winning trophies. He's made Palace, the informed team in the Premier League. But I think the situation United are in right now is that they've made so many mistakes over the years, not just Ineos, but the Glazers, the whole club, that I think they would be over-analysing every potential candidate and trying to find reasons not to appoint them rather than find reasons to appoint them. They're so scared of making another mistake. But I think if Amorim, was to lose or draw against Sunderland at the weekend, they would have to make a change because, games are running out. I know it's early, but games are running out. United right now, it's early enough in the season for somebody to turn it around. If it dragged on another month, that's another season gone, another season no Europe, another season potentially in relegation battle. So it is getting to the point now where it's, stick or twist, I think, with Amorim.
And you think the Sunderland game, and not that there's anybody in the Premier League that they would be safe against, there's not. But you would imagine one of the promoted teams who you would, at the start of the year, you might have considered some cannon fodder would have been slightly easier to take a bit of pressure off, but not the way they've started. Sunderland spent a lot of money in the summer, have started really, really well, are full of confidence, and they'll be licking their chops at taking this Man United scalp. So, he needs to find... Well, it's not like we're going to sit to the weekend and go, well, I wonder what he's going to do.
No, exactly.
Because we know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what he's going to do. Exactly what they're going to do. As I've said many times, you don't even have... It must be the easiest week on the planet for every team that's playing Man United, the scouting department, and the people that do, the tactics, the manager and the coaches, because they don't have to really think about the changes he makes, because he just doesn't make any. And top of playing players in terrible positions, and top of defenders that just want to squeeze out for offside and can't defend a long ball over the top as they had at the weekend. As we sit here now, if you gave me $100 to put on a winner of that game, I'd put it on Sunderland.
If you're Glasner, do you go?
Yes, because there's a shelf life at Crystal Palace with the likes of Steve Parish and others who only want to spend a certain amount of money every year to basically make sure they're not in a relegation battle. And if they can find a manager like Glasner that takes them with that budget to this promised land, then they're great with that. They're not all of a sudden going to go out and start giving Oliver Glasner a bundle of money. When Mark Gay's contract's up, he's going to leave. They've already lost Elise, they've already lost Eze. They'll lose the young lad in midfield whose name escapes me, the left footer. Adam Wharton, who's a terrific young player, England international. They'll lose him next. And then you have to go out and replenish. Now, Brighton have done that very well, selling and then recruiting. But it's really, really, really difficult. And Brighton have a young manager who's up and coming. Oliver Glasner is not. He's been there, seen it and done it in Austria, in Germany, in England. And Crystal Palace are a great club, but the allure of managing Man United, even in their current state, every manager thinks they can turn the ship around. Everyone.
Right.
No matter how bad it is, a manager always thinks they can make a difference. And if push comes to shove, I think that's where, unless they go offshore somewhere else, I think if they're looking in England, they shouldn't really be looking much further.
Just a reminder, a lot more reaction to what we saw across the board this weekend over on our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so, be sure to go to ESPN FC and subscribe.